All right, I think we are good to go ahead and get started. So hello everyone. Thank you for coming to our wonderful panel focusing on the 25 years of the Labyrinth Masquerade. Is there anyone in here who doesn't know what the Labyrinth Masquerade is? Great, that makes it easy. I can skip the let's have Shawn explain what the Masquerade is for any newcomers, but we can skip right by that question. So as you might all know, we are at our 25th anniversary, and so the show has changed a lot over the years. We've grown, we've learned a lot, and we want to take the opportunity to kind of talk about the evolution and how much all of it means to us. So I'm going to say let's go down the line here, and I'm going to pose to all of our lovely panelists, if you can introduce yourself and say what your name is and what your experience is, and a little more detail to that is how did you first get involved with the Labyrinth Masquerade?
My name is Jacquie Adorni, but everybody calls me Cheddar, like the cheese. I've been a costume designer, costume person for more years than I'd like to think about. And I got started working with the Labyrinth Masquerade. Actually, this just came up in my memories, now I remember. I was doing a children's show in Glendale, and I was carpooling with somebody, and she just kind of casually off the cuff one day was like, oh yeah, I'm holding auditions tonight. You should come audition. And I was like, sure, what am I auditioning for? And she's like, oh, it's this masquerade ball thing that we do. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I went and I auditioned, and they gave me a lead role, and I was like, oh, we're doing a masquerade ball, okay. And then that was in 2010, and I can't believe it's been that many years. And then I slowly moved from performing side of things into costuming things, and I ran the costume shop for Labyrinth for a few years. And now I help out with other things and do key costuming stuff. Yeah.
Well, hello everyone, I'm Shawn Strider. I see a lot of familiar faces. I basically started the Labyrinth Masquerade in 1997. Back then it was a little production that we were hoping would cheer us up. We were an independent comic book company named Sypher. I loved fantasy. I loved the idea of one day when I'm a rich and famous comic book artist, I'll throw a masquerade, kind of like that one from Jim Henson's Labyrinth. That's what we'll do. And oddly enough, there was an opportunity that somebody said, hey, you told me about this idea you had. Here's this really, really, really terrible venue in downtown San Diego. If you'd like to clean it up, you could throw your masquerade. Okay. So we were expecting about 50 people to come. We had about 150 show up for the very first one in 1997. And it's one of those things that there's a certain pace, there's a certain like music that starts coming in the back of my head at the same time every year where I'm like, oh, I need to start creating this thing again. I need to get everyone together and we need to start dreaming again in this world. So from very humble beginnings, LJ has become the behemoth that it is now. And we're excited for what's to come. Yeah, it goes by so fast. I mean, yeah. Cheddar, most of my main costumes, we only have 2 or 3 costumers that actually work on the costumes for myself. And Cheddar has been the lead on that for a decade.
I'm Daniel Rhodes. I'm the co-makeup department head alongside Samantha Michael. And we power through just a crazy amount of body paints, prosthetics, fairies, goblins, you name it. I never attended the masquerade as a patron. I was thrown in the back of a car and told you're going to a meeting for the show. They're going to talk about a lot of things you don't understand. It's fine, here's a paintbrush. And that's how I got involved. And just fell in love with it. And I loved the movie Labyrinth growing up. I've been doing professional makeup for maybe 8 years now on set, and going into specialty costuming studios and making prosthetics and all of that. So just a big Jim Henson nerd who got thrown into the center of a hurricane. It's one that I love a lot.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cassie Wanda. I create art under the name of Glimmerwood. I joke that I'm a professional fairy godmother. So I don't work directly with Labyrinth. I've attended as a patron. One year I threw some costumes at you in exchange for a couple tickets. That was great. But yeah, I create fantasy costuming, and first year I went was, I think 2013. I was baby costume designer, and Joelle and Firefly Path introduced We Gotta Take test out the tea party. It was, it's like, okay, I want to be a part of this, and I've been going as I could since. And it's, and like you said, like the movie Labyrinth, you want to go into that, and then you literally made a place where you can go into that, so that's really exciting.
Hi everyone, I'm Uti Hime. I'm a cosplayer, host, and also TTRPG enthusiast, which is why when I heard about this masquerade ball, I was like, wait, I can just be Faye. I can just be whatever I want to be at this particular location with other amazing people in wonderful, beautiful costumes. I actually learned about Labyrinth through my partner, who is a Cypher Knight, who's in the audience, Andrew. Surname, Landy. And I think that was 2017, I want to say, was my first Labyrinth Masquerade Ball. And I just, it was, when I describe it to people, I'm like, imagine just a night where you enter a magical realm and you just get to live out, like, just whatever you dream of, your imagination, you know, it's so amazing. And now I'm actually a part of the cast, because I got a little bit antsy. I was like, you know, I want to be a part of the action. I want to be where the people are on stage. And so most recently, like this past year, I was a fairy, and I got to be a part of the dragon dance, which was like, in my head, it was always something that, like, that looks so fun, and I finally got a chance to be a part of that. So I'm just honored to be a part of the cast and with these amazing people before you.
And the secret is we won't let you go again. So with all that in mind, you know, obviously you've all come in at different parts of the show and, you know, different eras. How have you seen the costumes and the attire and just prosthetics, everything? How have you seen that evolve over the years? Was it more complex now than it was before? How have you seen it change? Let's start, I'm going to throw to you, Shawn, first, since you've been here the longest.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can say that the very first year I did cosplay as Jareth. And again, this is 1997, so cosplay wasn't quite the thing as it was. I think I was walking down downtown San Diego, and somebody threw a bottle at me and said, "Hey, Captain Kirk," when they saw the Jareth costume I had. That's weird. But the evolution for everything else as it goes forward. The early costumes were people just trying. You know, we didn't have the kind of support, we didn't have the kind of costuming masquerades and things like that have sort of spawned since then. So I remember we were very strict that you had to have a costume, you had to participate. These are the rules that we retain today. You know, we weren't allowing jeans and stuff. And for the very first masquerade, I remember two guys coming over in suits, and they were people I knew. And I was like, guys, you're not wearing anything, you can't come in. And there's these two Marine boys from San Diego. One of them gets this ring, and another one gets a ring, and one puts it in his mouth, the other one puts it in his ears. And they're like, "We're the knockers." And I was like, okay, all right, adorable. You're in. And I guarantee you that trick probably won't work now. The evolution has just been stunning. I mean, people's attention to detail and the way that they're able to create just such amazing pieces. A lot of the times I say the best thing we could ever do on stage at Labyrinth is just put up a mirror for you guys to see, you know, what you've created and brought to the show. But the evolution has literally gone from, I've got a six-pack of beer and a couple of friends, and let's figure out what we can do in the next 2 hours, to people who are planning 2025's costume today. And have already got their closet of like, okay, well, there's 2023, and I'll make a few adjustments, and then 2024, I'll make a few more adjustments. In 2025, I'm already sketching and getting ready. You know, it's a much different process from what I've seen.
I mean, I think I'll go off that because I'm seeing our costumers all giggling at that comment. How have you started your LOJ 2023 costumes yet?
It's definitely not in my bag, and that's why I'm working on it here.
Don't worry at all yet. It's gonna happen, but no. Not for myself, for other people, yes.
Yeah, I will say we definitely get, on our social media, we'll get people tagging that they're already working on it, or they'll start working the day after the previous show.
Yeah.
And all of us on the crew and the cast will be like, I'm so inspired by you. We have a few meetings to have first. We'll catch up. Give us a minute. But so again, I guess we'll go down and go, what was your first costume? Was it a costume you made for Labyrinth? Was it something you pulled out of your closet when someone threw you in the back of the car and said you're going? What was your first experience with that? Anyone can jump in. We don't have to go down the line with the formal.
I was in a rehearsal. I got grabbed by the director. I got handed a piece of fabric, and they were like, "This is your dress." And I looked at it, and I was like, "This is a piece of fabric." And then a week later, it was one of the most amazing, perfectly fitted, sequined gowns I've ever seen, and it's still being used in the show every single year.
I was really into cosplay when I first learned about it. I wanted to do like princess parties and dress up as characters. So my first one was Tinkerbell, but I added a big ball gown skirt at the bottom so it would look a little bit more. And then I learned wings are kind of hard at Labyrinth because there are people there and they don't pay attention. Same with trains. So if you're looking for ideas, think about that.
Yeah, wings are an occupational hazard at Labyrinth for those of us walking through the
I have
halls.
definitely gotten hit and hit. And then I made like a Harley Quinn costume, like little, and that was fun because it was short, so I could like run around.
Speaking of trains, my first Labyrinth, I didn't know about this rule, that people might just step on it. My friend designed this gown that was, basically, I did my version of like Maleficent, but it was like her prettier, more cool sister. So in my head, I was like, she's magnificent. That's my character. And so I had the headpiece, and it was this beautiful royal blue gown. But the train, I swear, stretched out at least almost like 4 of these seats. And so it was very dramatic, because when I go to something for the first time, like, you know, my first convention I ever attended, I went in cosplay. I'm like, I don't do anything easy. I just want to go in and go hard. So that was what happened, and I did experience people stepping on my gown. But it also didn't matter because I was like, I understand this is a lot. And I ended up basically kind of makeshifting a hair tie to try to put my train at my hand so then that way I can move around. But I do remember that was my first experience, and everyone was complimenting me, and you know, I made a lot of friends that night. So that was just the beginning of, obviously, now.
My experience is going, hi, I'm a specialty costumer and makeup human. Don't look at me, though. Please don't look at me. I think my first year, because I had so little context, I have a trunk of like old cosplay costumes, red fair costumes, and I just kind of grabbed, and I think I went to Goodwill and got a random velvet dress for drag and threw some weird makeup on and walked the hall and lost my mind because everyone else is so incredible. And just kind of blended in and took notes and just trying to figure out for the next year what I can throw together without being in shoes as uncomfortable as it was in the first year.
Yes.
Yeah.
First walking and dancing.
I learned that the hard way.
Shoes are important.
Shoes are necessary as well for people. I've seen people come in barefoot, and I'm like,
I think footwear is my biggest no.
Yes.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't been at our current venue, most of the floors are marble there. So if you don't have good shoes and don't have good insoles, especially if you're going both nights, you will definitely feel it by the second night. Most of the core team wear some kind of boot with a good insole and just hide it under whatever the costume is. Daniel, I'm going to kind of throw and pick on you a little bit, just, you know, because we've been talking more about costuming. Some of the other aspects of preparing these characters that are glamorous and magical is, of course, makeup and prosthetics. So when we all think about cosplay, people might have hours in their hotel room to get ready for a convention, you know, by themselves or with their friends that are part of their team. How many people do you and Samantha put through the makeup line before doors at 7?
The sad part is I don't have an exact number anymore. I know it's well over 100, and we have just a block of hours to get everyone done with a team of all volunteer artists who are just you know, have you airbrushed before? No, here's a gun, let me show you. Can you paint? Can you move your hands? Do your feet work? Great, awesome. Do they not work? Here's a stool, keep going. We divide everything up between skill sets. Whoever wants to help can help. There's sort of a place for everyone. If they're super experienced, if they've never held a brush before, if they've only painted, never done makeup. If they know basic beauty airbrush, great, you can do a fairy. Do you want to learn how to do a prosthetic? Slap a goblin nose on it. Paint some people green and figure it out. And a lot of times people come out of Labyrinth stronger makeup artists because it's so rapid, so intense in everything needing to stay on for dancing, singing, writing, how many shows. Yeah.
Lots of sweating.
A lot of sweating.
Learn how to do bulletproof theater makeup very fast.
Well, I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, though, is that everything that we do, and for those of you who attend, thank you. You're able to sort of retreat back to your hotel room, refresh. I think one of the things that I've heard is that the nicest people you will find are at the bathrooms at Labyrinth, because you'll go to some shows and it's like, hey, oh, I don't like your costume, I'm going to not really help. But at Labyrinth you go and everyone's like, oh, here, let's help put ribbons on it. Let's help you fix your costume up even more and reset.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of the drunk girls in the bathroom telling everyone they're pretty.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like that, but let's also, like, oh, let's put that back up there.
touching up makeup with one another, just like making sure everyone looks perfect.
Yeah.
And sharing glitter.
lots of
I went into the bathroom one time at Labyrinth and I didn't have any glitter on. Some drunk girl in the bathroom was like, no, you need glitter. And I was glittery. It was awesome.
They have a lot of, but behind the scenes, for those of us who are, for the 400 plus artists that are there and performing for you, and we all have our little schedules and we're telling our story and we know where we need to go. Our costumes have to be made at a slightly different standard. So while we don't always have the opportunity to be as elaborate as we want, it's got to be bulletproof. Our pieces go through a lot of rigors. Performers like our goblins or like our knights, I mean, they're going to be in this outfit for 8 hours. They're going to be sweating through it. They're going to be jumping from place to place to place. And it's amazing what the team has come up with, because some of these rigors that we're going through with, we're very fortunate to have makeup artists that have worked on major motion pictures and costumers that have worked for theme parks and major motion pictures, as some of the people sitting on this panel have. And for Labyrinth, it's like their endurance contest. Everything that they're building has to last a little more. Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about going down into the makeup pit during Labyrinth is the makeup team has a full, what is it, a 9-hour call for when you first get there, Daniel?
If they're lucky.
If they're not on Dragons, you probably can't see the screen, but we currently have the Dragons
Yes.
currently up. They go into makeup at, I think their call is 11:30, and the show starts at 7. But beyond that, with all the artists, they're all artists themselves. They all want to go and enjoy the ball when they're done putting makeup on the 100 plus performers. So you'll see their makeup just start to creep up on their arms or on their face as they're in between people. Like you'll walk away and suddenly someone's got half an eye done, or they've started to put some latex prosthetic on their arm to create some bark texture. And you just kind of watch this grow as the whole room grows into the magical creatures that we know and love throughout the show. But speaking of our dragons, that's a piece that's obviously a little bit complicated to coordinate, because you do have to coordinate between costuming and makeup and make sure it all meshes together. So I think it's kind of a Daniel and Cheddar and a little bit Shawn question of how do you start that coordination? Where does the discussion begin?
Well, I think just to kick it off, everything starts with story at Labyrinth. Even though it's not widely broadcast, this is a linear story from year to year to year that is one day in the court or one weekend in the court, starting from year 5. And with the dragon characters, it's just sort of like, here's a concept, here's what we want, here's the dancers that we want to have in them, at which point we turn around to costuming and to makeup and say, now how do we achieve it? How do we achieve it in a very small time frame? And how do we get it to where it can stand on these dancers for 8 hours of dancing on stage under hot lights?
Yeah. For me, most importantly is where does the costume start and where does the costume end? Because wherever that lands is where the paint stops a few inches before. so we know what they need to be in to be painted. What's our timing going to be? How much skin am I covering? Because the dragons are typically head to toe. I think it wasn't until this past year that we added more tights, or just more bodysuits to sort of take up a bit of that labor when we can. But yeah, they're still pretty heavily painted. But it helps to know where I need to stop, so I'm not just wasting time on something that's not going to get seen.
For me, Labyrinth, because it is a linear storyline, we've had all these characters for many, many years. Even though the dragons were new, there's still an established fashion history within Labyrinth, that each group, each culture within the Labyrinth and within the realms has their own costumes, they have their own fashion trends, they have their own costume rules that, like, same as we would have, you know, like you wouldn't wear jeans and a t-shirt to certain social events because it just wouldn't be appropriate. The characters within Labyrinth also have those rules, so finding out, taking the fashion history into account, and then looking at, okay, where are we going with this? Dragons were already here in the realms. They were already at the ball, they just weren't in human form yet. So we had to look at our dragon sparkles and then go from there. These characters are established, we just haven't seen them yet. So
I think that's a good jumping off point to kind of talk about the original creation of our Cypher Knights. We did call out, we have a Cypher Knight here, but Shawn, do you want to tell the story of how those and why the Cypher Knights were originally created?
Well, sure, and talking directly about fashion, for those of you who have been to the ball, you've noticed the very helpful sort of people that are standing around with very distinctive uniforms, and it's an inviting uniform, it's friendly, but it also seems to have some authority. Based it off of the Swiss Vatican Guard. Back in the day, in the early venues that we were at, we would normally have like house security for the clubs in Hollywood or house security at a venue, and they don't understand what cosplayers go through. They don't understand the fantasy that we're trying to live, and it's normally somebody in a black windbreaker that's just sort of treating people as they will, right? Like a security guy does. Oh, pass, fail, nice, modest kind of stuff. And it's not what we wanted for Labyrinth. So with Labyrinth, we have a group that's called the Knights. Their job is to step between you and the real world. So if you're having a great time, they're there to help you have a great time. They're there to be approachable. If you have a problem, you can come to a Knight, even if they're a performer, even if they're one of our security, you can come to them with a problem, they will help you solve it. And if somebody else has a problem, we need to take care of it. The Knights are that translator between, to be able to tell, like, okay, do we de-escalate? Do we give you some instructions on how you can have a better time? Or do we actually need to bring security, medics, and all those normal logistic things that you have to do with any major event? And they're kind of our CNU for that. So when we were designing them, we wanted to make sure that they looked something within the realm, something bright, fabrics that could be washed. Again, our materials, we put our costumes through the ringer. And the Swiss Vatican Guard was something that I always just loved. When you see those guys guarding the Pope, and they're bright and colorful, and you kind of want to giggle, and then all of a sudden you realize, no, they're here, they mean business, and they're approachable. So that's our side.
And sometimes the performers, I can see Cheddar grinning, sometimes the performers go out and do a photo shoot on the beach without warning the head costumer at the time.
yeah. And they forgot the pants in a bucket and then didn't tell me the pants were wet, and then they got moldy and they had to be replaced. But what's great about the Cypher Knight costumes is that they are actually really easy to make. That was another one of the criteria, was they're easy to make. I can hand this pattern to anybody, they can sew it. They look great on everybody. They fit so many different sizes and body types, and they're deceptively simple or deceptively complex. And words are hard, sorry.
Yeah, I think when you're developing, and this is kind of for everyone, not just the Cypher Core, how important are sketches to you for developing your concepts of character and your look and your aesthetic when you're building something? Anyone can jump in.
Making something faster, making something long-term.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you're trying to do things quickly, sketches are like, okay, here's your roadmap. And when you have more time, you're like, let me just pin things and see what they look like. And I'll wait a day and see how it resonates tomorrow, and I'm just gonna have a mood board and something will come to me. That's how I work. But I get more time than you do to make it count.
I'm very, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I don't really use sketches per se, but again, like the Pinterest or mood boards, when I was an attendee, kind of piecing together different things. And for me, it was really important because the fact that I am ethnic, I'm a brown and black person, I want to try to represent also too parts of who I am, my culture, into the look. So, you know, going with more of like, you know, maybe like if it's, I think one of my first hairstyles, it was more like almost like dreads and different things kind of woven together to kind of create a look. So kind of like if you've seen Bridgerton, Queen Charlotte, that kind of vibe, that's what I wanted to do. So it's like finding different images and kind of piecing it together and what I like about certain things and makeup and et cetera, and kind of piecing it together that way.
I was going to say, I'm very privileged because a lot of the costumes have outlived me overall, and came from before my time with the show. But that really allows me to look at it and go, okay, what's the costume saying about what they should look like? What would their face look like if they're wearing this? For the dragons, it's powerful, just absolutely powerful. They're going to have a strong sort of kabuki theater-inspired brow. They're going to have some like heavenly contouring, just really powerful. For the fairies, it's really light, airy. The costume is really wistful, so the makeup's going to be wistful. And I'm very thankful to have those shows.
I like sketches because they help like cross departments. So like if I do a sketch, I can be like, oh, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Makeup, here's what we're doing. Lighting, here's what color it's gonna be. So you see that picture, the bar picture, and the sketch got a little bit cut off. It's got fabric swatches, it's got all of that. I can hand that to a lighting person so that they can know what gels to put on stage. I can hand that to a makeup person so they can know what the costume's gonna look like, what the textures are gonna be. So like if it's a velvety fabric up close to the skin, maybe we don't want to put makeup too close to that, it's going to rub off and stick, sort of thing.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit away from our function and just the nuts and bolts of it to talk more kind of about our experience in the realms with our patrons and with our guests. Obviously, we all come to the show to experience some form of magic and to have that moment where we get to be whatever it is we want to be, whether it's beautiful, whether it's powerful, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a fairy, whatever it is. What are some moments that you have seen within the realms that have touched you?
Well, I guess I'll kick that off. Who am I? You know, LOJ is a really interesting show, right? There's a lot of moving parts. It's one of those things that we want you to be able to just lose yourself in whatever moment you're there. So if you're walking around, you're seeing the main stage, you're into the stories that we're telling, that you're able to find more depth into those stories. If you just want to be on the promenade and show a fantastic costume off and be admired by everyone else and admire other people in fantastic costumes, that's great. If you want to, you know, be with Victorian dancers and drinking tea, that is also wonderful. We have a pocket of our little universe for everybody. But one of my favorite stories is when all that intersected. I remember seeing a YouTube video where there was somebody filming and somebody else was sitting there going, oh man, look, and they're talking about every character that's on the stage. So like, and those are the knights, and this is the dragon, and that's that. And at the end of the dance act, you know, all the performers sort of get into their final pose, they get into their button, they're just dripping sweat. And somebody turns around, looks straight at the camera and goes, I don't know what the hell happened, but that was awesome. and that's really the two different ways to experience it. I love seeing people come in and see it for the first time and just are willing to try, you know, and willing to, they've never cosplayed before, and this is their first time, and their mind is blown. You see them all of a sudden thinking about all the things that they're going to do. And I also love to see veteran cosplayers and veteran costumers come in and go like, this is where I feel like I've come home.
I think when you cosplay at an event like this, there are a bunch of people who are just here to vend or shop or go to panels. Thank you for being here. But when you go to Labyrinth, you are there with, it's just the experience. There is nothing that takes you out of it. And I was there one year, and the junk lady, I mean, you've all seen Labyrinth or familiar, but the junk lady was there and she was telling me that I needed more stuff and she gave me a toy. I feel like the first time I went there, like the night after, I could still feel my cheeks hurting because I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I couldn't stop smiling. It was just, you've done such a good, this is so cool.
I think for me, the most memorable place, and I always tell people if it's their first time going, the Goblin Room. I absolutely love, they put so much just passion into every single act that they do on that stage, and they also to bring other like magicians and jugglers and other variety acts onto the stage as well. But I just remember accidentally coming across the room or like looking inside, and all I saw were the goblins doing whatever they were doing, and then I saw like fairy wings and people dressed like demons and like all these different like mixtures of like fae and fantasy, and I was just like, what is this room? What is going on here? And then I remember staying in there for like, I don't know, like 2 hours. And I was just like, it's nonstop. They're going the whole time, and it's just see everyone smiling and having a good time and clapping and laughing. And I remember just that staying with me and just showing how magical that night was and how it really creates a wonderful experience for everyone who attends. So definitely, if you have your chance, Goblin Room.
That's very good.
Goblin Cabaret.
Goblins too.
I think, Jackie, you already know, my favorite was one year they came to me and said, we've got a little girl who's a survivor of childhood cancer, and we would like to make a dress for her. And the colors for childhood cancer are gold. And so I went through our fabric and I got her sizes. And that is my hand, so you can see exactly how tiny this girl was. And so we made her this dress. And then I had every single person from the casting crew come down and put one rhinestone on it. The entire dress is covered in rhinestones. So everybody came together and we made her this dress. And then we went down, hair and makeup came down, and we got her all dressed up in the bathroom there on the main floor, got all fancy. And then we all went out and we danced with her. And we celebrated survival. And it was, hands down, one of the ugliest cries I've ever done in my life.
Well, I think, I know, Daniel, were you about to say something? I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, no. Shawn looked at me, so I think not nearly as touching and wonderful. But this past year, I love the acts. I am down in the green room for so long, finalizing every look, and then finally getting myself ready because I was covered in paint, trashed by the end of 12 hours of makeup. I finally get ready, and I got to go up, and I catch like a night on the floor and get to go around and finally see all the shows, and enjoy the payoff, and watch everyone have a great time with everything. But this past year, I think one of the first acts I caught was a brand new full acrobat troupe. And they were the kindest people in the chair. They were so professional, so wonderful, so gracious to be there. Already with all of my artists, just everyone was having such a good time, like doing the makeup. We're so excited to see them. And first thing I saw when I hit the floor was one of their acts, and it blew my mind. It was like, okay, not sleeping, standing this long, this is worth it. No, it's genuinely, it's worth it. And I still like, my co-department head and I talked recently and touched base that we both still tear up every time we hear as the roll calls come up. Even if it's in the wild, so don't let but we still tear up every time. And the finale, I tear up every time. A big sappy mess every time.
I think on that, we will open it up if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep making them almost cry. I'm very capable of doing that, that's fine.
So Q&A, anyone want to ask us anything about LOJ or fantasy costumes?
To my costume makers, what is your favorite costume made for LOJ?
Kelsey's costume, Kelsey's fairy costume. It's like it's this beautiful purple corset that's right here, and it's got all this like woven detail on the hips, and I spent hours and hours on it. Actually, Joe Pye is here who helped me sketch it, because I drawing is not my strong suit, so I have friends. And it's hands down one of my favorite things that I've made for LOJ. Sorry, Shawn.
That's
I don't know. I've made a lot of stuff, and it always is just. Oh, I know. I made a friend a gown, and it was like fully glued, like thousands of feathers to the back. And I remember people would like walk by us, and then we'd hear as they were walking back, whoa! And it was a very short train, and nobody was stepping on that because they caught attention. But I don't know. That was really special. But I think I. Also, 2017 was the first year I went after I had my baby, and I was like, am I still costuming? Am I just a mom now? Like, I think anybody who does art for a living has had a baby has had that question. But I just threw together the fastest. It was just like a tulle fluffy cloud. I think I gave you that picture. And so it's like, it's not the cutest dress I've made, but it was special. Like, it was really like special in that moment to just be like, I'm a human in a fantasy world. Like, or fairy, I guess, not a human. Got wings.
That's fair.
That was really special.
How do you find your material?
Downtown LA.
Yes, I was gonna say.
You mean inspirations?
The inspiration for your
Oh,
material.
that's better.
How do you get
I
it?
thought you meant the real fabric.
So, you know, I would have to say that for me and for a lot of the baseline of story and what we're building, reading. And a lot more than you would, I know this seems a bit cliche, but a lot more than you would expect. I love Le Morte Arthur. I love like the ancient Arthurian tales. I love these glimpses into another world where you believe that there is something waiting for you, and it's something that is looking after you and wants the world to be a little bit brighter. I love the, you know, LOJ, the storyline behind the Labyrinth Masquerade is that there are portals that open up all over the place once a year, so anybody can show up. Like, we have no idea. You know, there could be some grandmaster of some ancient religion walking in and says, hello, my architect is the one and only architect. And we're like, great, fantastic. Cypher and I walk up and go, cool, sit down next to Seth and Raw and don't cause any trouble, okay? There's room for everybody here. And our charge is to make all of these mythologies sort of merge into a place where they're safe. So a lot of my inspiration comes from reading, and of course, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, your standard sort of fantasy fare. I would say to go a cut deeper, probably a little bit more into the classics. You know, I love Venetian, I love the Kalevala, Nordic lore, as well as Arthurian lore and legend. Well, you guys, what inspires you?
I feel like I need a book list from you after that. I don't know. I just like looking at things. Like, I'm looking over here. Oh, the beads in your hair and the crystals with, like, I don't know. I just look at things and I'm like, how can I turn that into my, like, something that sounds a little like appropriation.
I think, again, books, but also too, like, various fandoms. Again, I mentioned I am a tabletop role-playing enthusiast. I play a lot of different games, so that's constantly, my brain is always thinking of new characters and things. And so I think that just kind of goes into it, because if you want to, for a night, you can be, as an attendee, you can literally create the whole character and just be that character.
And people will treat you like that
yes,
character.
yes, as a cast, I was a little daffodil who was going around and curious about everyone and wanted to make friends, and I passed out little flowers to everyone I saw and made friends with. I was really scared of the dragons, very scared. And I used to pester all the nights. But that was my character. I would just go around and I kind of stayed in character, and that was really fun for me as a cast. Remember, to kind of bounce around, because they were like, they didn't expect me to just pop up on the side, like, hi, how are you? And they're like, what is going on? They're like, I know you, but you're still in character right now. And I'm like, I'm Daffodil, not who you think I am. So it was fun. That's usually for me, it's just getting into the character and trying to, like, figure out what does that character look like from head to toe. So that's me, how I do it.
How about you, Danny? What inspires you? You know, these lavish colors and all this.
I'm such a fine art nerd and come from a fine art background in surrealist art, and branching off of that, especially around when I got involved in the show, I'm so inspired by drag kings, drag queens, all of that, live theater performance. It's why I stole so much from Kabuki Theater for the Dragons. It's such a ripoff of that art form. But I'm just constantly consuming every bit of fine art and performance art that I possibly can and absorbing it like a sponge. And just, luckily, the world was already established when I came into it, and so I had so much visuals around me. I had gotten to see what did the realm look like when somebody else was making a department head, and what were they doing, and what do I love? What can I continue to boost and encourage that was already there? And that's just a very fun good thing.
Gwen.
How do you decide on an idea? Like, I have an issue where I get inspired by things, and I'm like, I have so many ideas, and then how do you decide on one idea that you are going to see to fruition?
We don't.
Yeah.
I just have to.
Yeah. I was gonna say, within the show, there's this joke. We have this gathering of the artists. It's called Story Time. That happens in the spring. And I say for about 6 months, I see you guys giggling. For about 6 months, we come up with a bunch of ideas. It's normally chapters and sort of like what is each group doing, what are the fairies doing, what are the elves doing, what are the Cypher Knights doing, and all this. We tell it at story time. The cast heckles me a lot. And then we spend the next 6 months trying to fit it all in and writing parts for 400 of our closest friends. So, as far as like choosing it, we don't really try to choose. We're like all over the place. But the nice thing is that when we come up with an idea that we like and it's jiving and it connects with the character and everyone says like, okay, yeah, that's the direction we go, then we just double down there. I mean, the nice thing about theater is that at the end of the day, there is a show in August, whether we like it or not. So we need to make one we like, and a deadline is going to help you get anything done.
Deadlines. That's what makes things. I don't know, sometimes it's a piece of fabric, you're like, okay, this is just what's happening because I have it. Okay, I don't know if you're talking about the show or costuming, so he answered that part, I answered the
I think there's something else interesting though, in that early on, I'd say in the first decade of LOJ, we were having to choose a lot. We were very much like, oh man, if I don't do this idea this year, it'll never happen. And nowadays, it's very different. Nowadays, we have storylines that I'm like, I'll push it forward 2 years and we'll let it ruminate a little bit and just add little bits and pieces to it. Everything is cumulative. So instead of just thinking about next year, we're thinking about stories and pieces for the next 2 or 3 years. And that helps. And we do the same thing in costuming, makeup, and everywhere. Is that we're sort of building ahead now.
On the side of it.
I got to attend for the first time in 2021, and I had a blast. So I'm very excited to come back this year. I was not able to go last year, but I guess my question is about from its origins to now being on Biltmore. What about that location allowed you to maybe expand on the story, or because it felt I never been there when I lived in LA, and it felt very magical. Literally, when you step outside and you're in like this old hotel. So like, what about that location?
Oh man. Well, for those who don't know, this is Labyrinth's 25th Labyrinth. Technically our 27th year, if you do the math, but we had to skip a couple. And this is the Biltmore's 100th anniversary this year. So we have this really special synergy with the space. It's gorgeous. As far as logistics-wise, because of the way the space is built, we are able to have areas behind the walls that you can't see that allow us to do our job better. You should see their area for costuming and makeup. It's massive. It's larger than the largest ballroom of the space. That we have just this giant area where the artists set up camp in the middle, and on one side we have 30 makeup artists getting through hundreds of performers, and the other side, very large tarps, and the other side we have costuming doing their thing.
And we always need more room. Just throw that out there.
I don't think the city will let us knock down walls in an antique venue, but we'll see.
Girl can dream.
But the space itself is almost labyrinthian. The thing that I always love about the Biltmore is that you can walk in one door, sort of step to the side, and come into a different ballroom and a different door. And if you know the path, you feel like you're in control of the space. And if you don't, it's just magic happening everywhere. And the venue's always teaching us things too. It takes us a while to figure out each room and the magic within it. And that's something that you just have to sit with the space and keep trying. So I would say the Biltmore has enhanced the show immensely, and it's home to us right now. And we love it.
I'll also add on that it's water finding its level, right? So we came from the Park Plaza, which is now the MacArthur, and that's a smaller venue. And now, 5-6 years later, we have used all the public spaces that we can use during the show. And we have more performers going, can I find more space? Can I find a new corner? We talked about Goblin Cabaret. Goblin Cabaret really came to fruition at the Biltmore and really grew and became what it is now. That didn't exist in the same way before we moved venues. So we've grown, and we love that space. We love that venue, and it feels like home to most of us.
Yeah.
The amount of times I have new makeup artists, new to the team, not new to the industry, who are kind enough to donate their time and come join the party and come have fun and throw paint around with me. Even if I'm already in the green room, I will get texts from people. I've gotten photos of people with their jaw dropped when they walk into the venue and look at the ceilings and look at the rugs. And of course, everyone I know are interior designers. But just so excited. They take one step onto the venue before they come down to my special trenches, and just are blown away. It's so beautiful. It's so inspiring. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great place to call home. One more question, I think.
Yeah.
So I've had friends go for years, and this year I already have tickets to go for my first time. So what is your advice for a first timer, whether it's just going or logistics being there or costuming? But I'd love any advice.
Oh man.
Costuming, be comfortable.
All right.
But you can be amazing and still comfortable. But you're going to want to walk around and look around. And like I said, wings, just be aware of how wide or tall they are. They're going to hit people. They're going to hit you.
Don't make your wings out of sticks.
Oh, yeah.
That one.
Or rose bushes.
Oh, I forgot about the rose bushes. But pockets are your friend. Sew pockets into your dress or whatever you're wearing.
Comfy shoes, a lot of pouches are always nice.
If you can budget it, stay at the Biltmore.
Yes, I was going to definitely say that.
So yeah, my advice would change slightly whether you're staying there or not. If you're staying there, then my advice is take your time. Take in every bit. Don't worry about the schedule. We've designed it that it's very hard to, and I'm going to let you all in on a secret for joining us for the panel today. We've designed it that you don't get to see the schedule for our stages. The reason why is because if we're doing our job right, you're having a wonderful time no matter where you are. And it's really important to us that you're able to lose yourself and that no two people can have the same experience at the show. There are so many details, so many things to interact with, and we have spent all year planning for them. And we can't even account for everything because all the patrons bring so much. So take your time with it, really absorb it. Don't let anything stress you out. Everyone gets really anxious when you're going to a show, right? You're getting ready for a con or something like that. You're getting very anxious, and you're letting that ruin your experience. Labyrinth is about you coming home. It's about you coming home and being who you want to be and being a part of that story. So don't be anxious. Just think you're coming home with your friends, just in a slightly fancier garb, and we're going to be happy to see you that way. I find that if people take that attitude, if they just sort of come in and they're like, I'm here to experience what we're going to make tonight, it's fantasy jazz, man. It's amazing.
I'm so glad you said that because I'm not on the team. I've been a patron, but I was going to say something like, oh, is it offensive to be don't go in with expectations? Just go, and experience. Don't try and see everything. Just let it happen to you.
Yeah.
That sounds so weird.
You're not going to be able to see everything. That's just commit that. If there are some things that I think you absolutely should see, you should go pop into Goblins. If you're doing two nights, you should go to Goblins. You should learn to waltz with the Victorians, with the Dreaming Court down in the throne room. You should try to be an agent for the Curia and see about running a few of their missions and learning some of the characterizations. You should hang out with the Buccaneers and see if you can drink one of them under the table. Good luck. You should go into Ferry and try not to lose your soul or lose your eyes or have Oberon trade the color of your voice for something. Like, you should go and experience these things. And remember, it's only forever. It's not a long time at all.
I'll just add something that we constantly have to remind people of for like cosplay panels. Be kind to yourself. So that kind of goes with what Shawn was saying as far as just not putting too much stress on like if you are trying to design something for the weekend and it doesn't turn out right. Something happens to your wig, whatever, and you could be freaking out, but you're there to have fun and to have a magical time with, like even if you're going solo or with friends. So that should be the focus, and also too just taking care of yourself as far as hydrating, because a lot of our ladies wear corsets and things. Even if it's sip through with a straw, make sure to hydrate. Take time to eat, and yeah, take your time so that way you're pacing yourself and can really enjoy the experience and not be having a panic attack in the bathroom.
Yeah, and
That's not it.
oh, absolutely. Well, and one more thing. Like, remember, everyone's here to help as well. So if you have a problem with your costume or something like that, go find a Cypher Knight. They'll find someone to help you. All right, we have, what's that?
I said we'll help you.
Yeah, we will help you because we want you to have an excellent time now. We reward people doing effort. You know, this isn't a place for the looky-loos that are coming in their suits and they're going to stand back and watch the cosplayers do their thing. This is our world. This is a world for us to explore and to have a great time in. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you all come home this August for our 25th anniversary.
I'm going to let us end on one fast question down the line. What is the best way to deal with glitter after the show?
You just live with it.
Abandon all hope.
Don't.
Tape. It helps, but it doesn't do it everything. It doesn't. I said it helps.
You deal with what?
How do you deal with glitter at the end
Glitter. Oh, I just said glitter. I was like, throw it away. Just have it on you for a whole year.
Yeah.
You'll find glitter everywhere.
All right, so we'll have secret glitter moment here. So if anybody doesn't know the politics of glitter, at LOJ, yeah, we're gonna go to bonus time. At LOJ, you'll see couples come together. You know, a gentleman and a gentleman. They're wearing silver glitter. They came together. Lady and gentleman wearing blue glitter. They came together. Be wary of those single people that are multi-glittered. Just saying.
On that note,